everybody, welcome to the channel for the second game that I played in Lausanne. I played against another teammate from my WTC team, which is Victor, aka Savage. He was playing Sylvan Elves. You know already my list, which is here, and this was Victor's list, which I think is really good. So he has the Ball Thrower BSB on Horse with MR2, then he has a Druid Adept on Eagle King with a Binding, an Adept Cosmology with a Crystal Ball, so good defensive magical item. 28 Archer and 2 units, 15 Forest Guard with the Rentless Company that can be chaff, Fast Cav, 2 units of Rangers, 2 units of Wild Huntsman, 2 units of Briar Maiden, 2 units of Pathfinder. So it's very mirror type of list. There's a lot of similar unit, but I think it's a well balanced list. Basically has some strong close combat elements. The points are well split in the list and crazy good shooting. I mean, 18 Briar Maiden can do a lot, 10 Pathfinders, all these Archer plus the Bolt Thrower shooting, and also magic do some damage. So I really like the list a lot. We played King of the Hill on diagonal, which is not the best setup for me. Obviously, King of the Hill could give me option to push towards his zone and get to something and get a secondary. But basically, diagonal gives him a lot of room to maneuver behind and on the flank. And King of the Hill depends a lot on who can start, who does what. Below you have the spell selection. I think here was mentioning a mistake that I made. Instead of Frenzy, I should have picked the Totemic Summon, which is way better in this matchup. So I think that was a big mistake not to pick it for this game instead of Frenzy. And on the right you have his spell selection. 2 main magic missiles, which is Ice and Fire, and 2d6 Strength 4, which are annoying spell. Break the Spirit is really strong. And then it also has Swarm of Insects. So not a lot of spell, but very well balanced magic that can do something in combat and also very good from range. Matchup analysis. So it's a very shooty list, but I should be able to fight middle-sized rangers. Briar Maiden are for me a huge problem because they are so mobile and do poison shooting. Especially they are a big threat for my monsters. His shooting can do a lot against my list. I know that already for a fact. I've played enough against Sylvan Elf recently. Who get the first turn is key in the matchup, I guess. And yeah, it's a complicated matchup. I know it's one of the matchups that I don't like. I wasn't too happy to get this one after the first round, but that's how it is. It's a good training, but I know it's not an easy match. Deployment, I won the roll for side, and I picked that one because it allowed me to pick the wall as a train to defend, which I felt is a nice soft piece of train. And I like the fact that I could give him an impassable here in the middle, and that either he picks the forest, which is in my strong zone of the map, or he picks the hill that is directly facing my wall where I can hide. So I felt it's quite interesting. And then obviously Victor decided to drop the first turn. He puts a Light Cav, Pathfinder, Wild Huntsman, Briar Maiden with the BSB, the 2 Archer, the Eagle Mage, the Relentless guy, Forest Guard, 2 units of Rangers defending his hill, and then on his strong flank just put 9 Briar Maiden and 5 Wild Huntsman. My counter deployment, I decided to go with strong flank Tuskers helped by 2 Darts of Bruisers. Then I have my Mercvrats behind the wall because most of his shooting is here up top, meaning I can get hard cover, which is nice. Then my Death Star, the Chaff Piece, and the 2 monsters on the back. He's turn 1. He tried to trap me on top, so he decided to chaff these 2 units and move forward to basically get a counter charge with the Wild Huntsman that can do a lot against Tuskers. He moves also his shooting to try to do some damage here, and the rest remained pretty much the same. He just moved the Briar Maiden all the way to the side to really try to exploit this large area that he has, which makes it really hard for me to defend because there's a lot of space that he can exploit. In Magic Phase, he got Ice and Fire, did 4 wounds to the Bruisers. He will do some other wounds with shooting on the Bruisers as well. And then he gets Swarm of Insect off and roll 5 wounds to my Frost Mammoth, which is, as you can see, very unlikely and a big problem for me because basically I need the 2 monsters to protect the flank, and once I lost already 1, which is already more or less the case, it's a huge problem. And then with shooting he did 3 wounds to my Tuskers. My turn. With the remaining guy here, I could charge to the flank of his Fast Cav. So I was quite happy about that. So I charge his flank, try to get rid of him. The idea, I have still a couple of plans that I can activate here to avoid the charge of Wild Huntsman. One of them would be to flee and end up here and rallying in the leadership bubble. Second option would be to make some guys flee in front of him and to basically block his charge. Or third option to get an overrun here. And the fourth option would be to get Break the Spirit off. So I have still a couple of cards that I can play. The rest just rearrange my line, decided to move out of the wall, try to get some shots here on top, which in hindsight was not the right decision. Could have stayed behind the wall and just shoot at stuff in the middle. I didn't need really to move out because I cannot get shots at Wild Huntsman, and get shots at Briar Maiden basically doesn't help a lot. So I think I should have stayed here and tried to shoot at his archer basically. And the Death Star move a bit forward. Didn't do much, and here basically I'm forced to hide the Frost Mammoth that has only 1 wound and just use the Giant to protect the flank. And that's more or less it. In the magic phase, I try Break the Spirit on those guys. 4 dice against 4, I dispel that. Shooting, I kill one of the Briar Maiden, and I fail Swarm of Insect on 1 dice. Here I roll really well with the bruisers, and I kill all 4 guys, 1 remaining. He fled far away, blocking his charge, which is nice. And I decided, I think, to pursue, but I didn't catch him. He's turn 2. So now he needs to be more patient on top, so he moves his Wild Huntsman back, rallied on the leadership 4 rerollable here, which is disappointing for me, obviously. And the rest in the middle just rearrange, and on bottom, since I have only 1 monsters protecting the flank, he decides to push the Briar Maiden, shoot me, and depending on what he does, he can always flee the charge and rally here, so it's not too bad. Wild Huntsman stay away just as a counter charger in case I want to push more in the middle. Magic phase, he gets 2d6 strength 4 on the Merc-Vets, kill 1 Merc-Vet. Shooting, those guys roll. Again, I roll a 3% chance to do 5 wounds to my Giant. And they did it, so it's really annoying because my 2 monsters are dead. I lost my flank against some, how many? 9 poison shots and a Swarm of Insect. So that's crazy, and it's hard to swallow for me. And with shooting, he finished the bruises here that could get rid of his chaff, so not anymore the case. My turn, I'm going to charge with these bruises against the chaff. It's not an easy charge, I think it's like a 9. But if I get in, I can get rid of it and trigger a frenzy check, which I felt it's interesting. The rest, as you will see, I just rearrange my line. I decided here to chaff to be able to move a bit forward, which, yeah, I felt those guys are trapped. They can easily charge me with multiple stuff, so I might as well activate them. And what I liked is the fact that it forced a frenzy check on the Wild Huntsman, and they cannot charge anything else. So I felt it's a 9 maximize. If they felt they are, if they failed that, they're in the middle of the board. Maybe this open up some options. I move back behind the wall with the Merc-Vets. As you can see, the bruisers fail charge, and I rearrange the position of those guys quite far away from his threats, especially the Wild Huntsman. In the magic phase, I kill 2 archer with Swarm of Insect, fail the frenzy spell. I think I try to cast on them, maybe. And that's more or less it, so not much for me. He's turn 3, he chaffs me again, push forward with the Wild Huntsman. Rearrange here, his shooting can move a bit forward. He charge my chaff, passes the frenzy here on the far right, and activate Relentless to block my Death Star from charging his 2 Rangers unit, and those guys can basically push and try to kill one of my monsters and create some panic check. In magic phase, a Swarm of Insect kill my Giant, and shooting kills my first Mammoth. And I'm going to pass the panic check on the Merc-Vets, but I'm going to fail this one, 9 rollable, which forced me to flee somewhere here in the back. And Victor is kind enough to tell me, yeah, basically the game is pretty much, makes no sense after that. So he tells me, yes, it's training, you can just keep them like they are. So it's very kind of him, because yeah, now I have still a small chance, but it's still very, very complicated for me. So I didn't need to fail a 9 rollable at this point of time to add some salt on the wounds. Yeah, it's going to kill some dogs, but not all. I managed to flee, restrain, and reform. And that's my turn 3. I charge a chaff with the idea of overrunning towards this direction. I can get off the board and maybe flee behind if I need to, even if I don't reach the board edge. So I felt at least I get rid of the chaff and get some points. Here I rally and chaff those guys, rearrange the position of my Death Star and the Merc-Vets, try to protect my piece of terrain basically, and move away with the remaining bruiser guy. In the magic phase, I couldn't charge with the bruisers against his cavalry. Magic phase, he dispel, break the spirit with his 5 dice against my 4. I get Hand of Heaven and kill 3 Pathfinders. and finish them with shooting, and on the other Pathfinder unit I get Swarm of Insect and kill 4. So at least that was a good range damage round for me. His turn, he charge, fail the frenzy and charge those guys. Uses his infantry to chaff against my Death Star, and the rest basically I overrun here out of the board and he waits for me, reposition his unit, and those guys are able to move in my back now that I have nothing looking at them. In the magic phase, he gets 2d6 strength 4 that fail at the Merc Vets. Swarm of Insect did 1 wound to something. I think the Merc Vets. Close combat, he killed those guys. My turn. Here I enter the board. I keep the position, try to defend. He stays alive, so move a bit sideways to be annoying. In the magic, he Binding Scroll, break the spirit, I guess. I get +1 resilience, and on the Death Star, and Hand of Heaven, kill 3 guards in some unit. And with shooting, I'm going to kill 6 archer. That's it. So he has still a couple of archers left. I should have targeted with missile plus shooting the same unit. It was not so smart to try to target those guys. And basically what I'm doing here is just using his chaff against him, telling him you can charge me, but you don't get a lot of those rangers in contact, meaning I can strike at those guys, and then you're in trouble. So I felt it's quite interesting to sometimes use opponent's chaff against himself. Stun 5, chaffs me again, moved the 4 remaining archers here. Here I had to flee the charge of the Wild Huntsman, which allows his BSB unit to push to the flank. I couldn't cover this angle because I wanted to stay behind the wall, and I'm as much to the left as I could. Move those guys to kill the remaining bruisers, and the rest just pushes forward. Magic phase. 2d6 did 2 wounds to the Merc Vets, and I think I dispelled the rest. And with the wounds, yeah, shooting did crazy job. He kills all the 3 remaining Merc Vets. Can kill him as well, so I don't have many models alive. My turn. I decided to jump the Master Shamanism here in this block, use this unit to make this charge from them here impossible. Those guys can charge me, I'm trying to buff me. Here I move away with the Thaumaturgy and the BSB and rally those guys to be ready to counter charge in case he wants to shoot me. I think I did here a huge mistake. Should have charged with the Thaumaturgy Mage into the 4 remaining archers to just get rid of them. Secondary is here to defend. The rest of the scoring are far away, so I should have just done that. I think it was a huge mistake. I felt I could save those points and blast him last round, try to get rid of them, which was never going to happen. So yeah, bad decision here. Magic phase, I get break the spirit off on those guys, which makes no charge possible. On his turn, he get the archer. He couldn't get them on the secondary, so he gets the archer, move the rest to shoot me. He gets some 2d6 Swarm of Insect and some shooting and kill these 2 characters. I passed the panic check on 8, but basically I have nothing to remove those guys now. And on my last turn, I think I just killed those guys with the charge. He passed the panic check and killed those guys as well, and that's it more or less. Ended up being a 18-2 because he wins secondary, which I could have easily avoided and end up closer to a 5, which would have been, I think, a fair result. Very hard matchup, especially when not starting. Tusker were kind of trapped. I think I would have deployed better. I will show you after how I could have done it. And protect also my monsters a bit more from his poison shooting. That did a lot. Monsters flank collapsing too quickly put me in huge trouble in the game. As you saw, I was a bit unlucky early on, and this put me in even more trouble than I was with the matchup. Turn 5, Ogre Khan should have charged the archer with the mage, would have probably saved the secondary, and like I said, I could have cast the Hand of Heaven the turn before on those 4 archers to reduce them even more, so some bad decision here to protect secondary. Obviously, I missed Pyro in the matchup, and I should have picked the Totemic Summon, like I said. And I felt, it was a bit sad, but I felt my only option to win this game was an 11 Swift Ride charge from the Death Star turn 1 and a 12 Swift Ride charge turn 2 from the Death Star as well. And I felt after that I had no chance anymore to win the game. Basically, it was just a question of how much I was going to lose. How I should have deployed? I think the Tusker in the bottom part of the map to zone those guys. There is no chaff available. I'm still looking at the Rangers, which could be an issue for him. So I felt that could have been a decent position. The Giant facing the infantry block and protected and a bit behind at the beginning of the game. Chaffing and then pushing with the Giant, try to get some corner chaff and so on. The Frost Mammoth just behind here playing with the Impassable to not get shot at. And just basically covering with Terror Check this flank. and the rest just deploy more or less like I did. Obviously these bruisers also a bit hidden a bit more, so I think I could have done slightly better in the deployment stage to protect my zone and also open up some charge option maybe with the Tuskers later on. But basically here with the 2 monsters, that was just too easy for him. He got a bit luck, was able to easily beat my backline, and after that I was in huge trouble. So guys, that's it for this battle. It was a hard lesson for me, a hard battle report, but still some, as you can see, even if you lose big, there are still a lot of things that you can often improve to reduce the loss, and still a lot of lessons that you can learn. And congrats to Victor, I think he played a good game, managed to get secondary, so I think he did what he had to do without any crazy risk. Basically managed his risk carefully, didn't went into combat, and that was enough to win it big, so congrats to him. Guys, that's all for this battle report. It was my second training game before WTC. Next one will be introduction video of WTC, and then the battle report of WTC, which I'm really looking forward to do. Plenty of stuff to analyze. Thanks a lot for watching. Talk soon on the channel. Bye.